Passwords are the bane of all our lives now. We have so many passwords, so many different places to put them. And you've got to use strong passwords or you could be in trouble. But how do you remember a strong password? Now, here are some easy to remember passwords. And, you know, you hear people say, oh, just use the word password. Well, let's test the word password using this site here. How secure is my password? Now, this is put up by a highly reputable company called Dashlane, who do password management software. I don't use Dashlane because I can remember my passwords. And I'll explain to you as we go along how that is. But if you're worried about putting in your password, your real password into here, put your password that you're currently using, but just change a letter or two so you're not, if you're worried about your password being harvested. But I'm going to put password in here as a password. Right, it says your password would be cracked instantly by a computer. So obviously that one's no good. Let's take that out and let's put in the other one that we looked at, that clever one, using 2 5s for the S's, and that's a 0. Number 0 rather than the letter O. That'll be strong, won't it? Well, let's try it. It'll be cracked instantly. So that's no good either. What about the name of my dog? I don't have a dog, so I'm going to put in name of my dog. You know, Spot or whatever. Nobody knows the name of your dog, so how are people going to crack that password? Well, let's put in this name of my dog as password. Take that one out. It's better. It would take 1 day to crack your password. So a computer throwing stuff at it, it's not done by humans. A computer just throws random stuff at your bank account until it guesses your password. So they're no good. None of those. Let's have a look. Now, remembering your password, it is okay to write them down in a book. Now, this is the advice of several experts in the field. Just a little notebook tucked away in your house somewhere. Write your passwords down in there. And it's highly unlikely a burglar is going to be looking for a notebook. So that's not a bad way. But I don't even keep a notebook because I can remember my passwords. And how we make strong passwords, we use little tricks. Like letter substitution. A 1 would stand for the letter L. A 0 would stand for the letter O. You can use a 4 instead of the A. You can use a 3 instead of the E. It kind of looks like it. A $sign can substitute for an S. It looks just like an S. But my advice is just pick one of these substitutions and use it every time, but just one. So you know that every time you use the letter O, you put a 0 instead. Or I like the $sign. But pick one and use it every time. Don't use different ones. Don't use more than one. Just stick with the one and then you'll not forget. And a strong password needs the following things. It needs a capital letter, 1 capital letter at least. Some numbers, or a number, and a non-alphanumeric symbol. And by that I mean the exclamation mark, the @ symbol, the pound symbol, the $ symbol, as I've mentioned before, the percentage, the ampersand, the and thing, the star, the asterisk, or the open or close brackets. If you use them, pick something and use it all the time. And here's the trick I use. I use a 2-part password. And for one part, I use a word. But I use a word that I'm not going to forget, such as town of birth. And by the way, I wasn't born in Newcastle. So if you think I'm giving away my password, don't head to my bank account. I wasn't born in Newcastle. But let's say this fictitious person who's creating a strong password was born in Newcastle. So he never needs to write down Newcastle. And he probably won't forget it either. But if he wants to put a note in a notebook, don't write Newcastle, write town of birth. what I ate in hospital. Oh, this one's true. When I had my tonsils out, this fed you tomato soup. But I'm not going to forget. If I write down in my notebook what I ate in hospital, I know what it was. I'm never going to forget that. By the way, I don't use that for a password either. And the other part will be a number. So your Uncle Bill, for instance, was born on the 23rd of July, 1953. He wasn't. But that would be 230753. Or the year you were married, say 1973, whatever. So you've got a word and a number. And then we bring in the capitalisation and the substitution for letters. Now stick with the same thing every time. So this person, this fictitious person, is always going to use a $sign for the S. And is always going to capitalise the first letter of the word that they use. Now you could be tricky and say, I'm going to capitalise the second letter of every word I use. But as long as you stick to the same principle every time you do it. And then you put the two things together. Newcastle with a capital N and the substituted $sign, and then the date of Bill's birthday. And you could write down in your notebook town of birth and Bill's birthday. Now, that's very cryptic. Now, you might carry that around in your head because it's memorable to you, but someone else isn't going to know all the substitution and the capitalisation and the stuff. They won't know the date of your Uncle Bill's birthday, unless it is, of course, Uncle Bill. But he's hardly going to get into your bank account and steal your dosh, is he? So we put those two things together. And so what I want to do is I'm going to go back to that password test tool. And I'm going to put in this new password. And let's just see if we can beat our current score of just one day to crack the password. So I'm going to take that one out. I'm going to put in the one I've just showed you. It's going to take 41 trillion years to crack the password. So that is a strong password. But it's very, very relevant to this fictitious person. Now that's a nice strong password, but don't use it for everything. Even though it's strong, you should use different passwords for different places. But use the same principles. Capitalise the first letter of a word that you can associate with, if that's what you did this time, as in Newcastle. Use the same letter substitution, and use the same approach to finding a number that you can write a cryptic clue to, and create two-part passwords that are all very strong. You may remember them, or you could write them down in your notebook, but you can write down the cryptic clues to your passwords and you're pretty safe. Give it a go and see if you can create a strong password that you will not forget, and stay safe.